So remember that, yes, this is beautiful, but this is also beautiful. Because if I don't believe that my natural hair that is fine is beautiful, how am I going to convince my daughter, my niece, that hers is beautiful? Okay, you guys, so I was today years old, or maybe this year years old, when I realized that fine hair is special. And so in this video, I'm going to try to prove it to you. For all the reasons to love your natural hair again, welcome to my channel. I'm Nadia, and this is The Main Life. Doesn't that tagline just hit? Okay, so the first proof that I have that fine natural hair is actually normal and it's actually fine and there's nothing wrong with it is that, number one, you are not alone. I realize that I am not alone with my fine natural hair. I actually thought for a very long time that my natural hair is fine because it's damaged. And so if I do this or if I do that, or maybe if I big chop and I grow it right back out again, maybe it's going to grow out a little bit thicker. But then I made a video recently about the pros and the cons of having mini twists. And then I talked a little bit, just a little bit. I don't think I talked too much about it. I talked just a little bit about how fine the mini twist came out compared to what Pinterest had showed me that it would give, you know, just how differently it came out. And then I started seeing comments, girlies in the comments section affirming and testifying to the point that they also have fine natural hair. You see them saying it not as a problem that needs a solution, not as something again that needs like rejuvenation. It's almost as like I'm owning it. It's like I have fine natural hair and this is also what my twists look like. And so I started seeing more and more of those girlies dropping in the comments, and thank you so much if you're one of those, because I believe that that level of vulnerability is what really allows us to break cycles. Sometimes we see people have like pretty voluminous hair and we think, man, I must be less than because look at her hair, right? We think that that is the standard, and because our hair doesn't look like that, we don't meet up to that standard. But there's like a standard that's defined by someone else that we try to live up to, as opposed to our own standards that we have defined. There's something that I love to say, or that I'm learning now, is actually like a really good mantra to go by, and it's like you get to define what done is when it comes to your hair, right? Your definition of done is what matters. It doesn't mean that it's going to erase completely everyone else's definition, everyone else's interpretation of what hair done, when your hair is done, it should look like. But it just means that your definition takes priority, it takes precedence, like it is the standard. And so starting to see that I was not alone made me realize that, wow, fine hair isn't automatically unhealthy. It doesn't automatically equate to not enough. You know, having fine hair is actually relatable. It's actually normal, you know? It's just your hair is just thinner, and thin a lot of times has this negative connotation to it. It just almost feels like it's in progress to get somewhere as opposed to it's already there. My hair is thin, full stop, right? That's usually not what we look forward to. For at least the longest time, I've understood thin hair as being like a before photo, like a phase that is progressing towards something else, and something else usually looks like thicker strands or like volume of, you know, fullness and density, you know what I mean? I never really thought that I could say I have fine hair, full stop, and that in itself is a sentence that is enough, not a sentence that needs to transition or progress towards being something else that I think is better, that I think is enough. I feel like I'm going on a tangent. Are we clicking? Are we on the same page? Let me know. So if I'm trying to prove to you that there's actually nothing wrong with fine natural hair, that is reason number one. Reason number two, we glorify extremes, either Eurocentric or thick, long, natural hair. But what about the girlies in the middle? When you talk about like representation and diversity of hair, fine natural hair is also part of a bunch. So how come we don't see that glorified? Like, when was the last hair ad that featured a black girl with thin natural hair, showing her thin natural hair as it is? When was the last time we saw a hair ad that showed a woman or a black girl with thin edges that naturally is like that? And of course, I don't want to be blind to the fact that it is possible to have thick hair but then not take care of it well, not maintain it well enough, where it becomes damaged and it becomes thin, it becomes lifeless. But I'm not talking about those instances. I'm not talking about instances where you could have done or you could have taken care of and you didn't, and that's why we're here. I'm talking about instances where you naturally are just here, you know, and we don't see a lot of that. And maybe I'm mistaken, and you can show me if maybe I haven't seen it, but we don't see it. I don't see enough of it. And when we do see it, we see it as like something that needs to be fixed, right? We see it as like the before, but there's this product, and if you apply this product, then there's going to be an after. And never is just like standard. Because another thing to consider too is genetics. I think you should subscribe if you've gotten this far into the video and you have not subscribed yet. So in one of the more recent videos that I posted, there was a comment in there that referenced genetics. It was just like, well, genetics also plays a big role. Like, look at your mom's hair. How is her hair? Because a lot of times we inherit, you know what I mean? It's genetics. So if her hair is fine, then it's possible too that your fine hair is very much normal. I read it and I was like, you know what? True, but I didn't think too much of it. But then after mulling it over a couple times again, I was like, you know what? That's kind of true. My mother has very fine hair. My grandmother also has very fine hair. But then sometimes too, you start making excuses. She's not really taking care of her hair. Like, my mom does the same thing that I did. And oh my God, she watches all my videos. Hi, Mom. Now she's going to be like, oh, you was talking about me? And she's gonna say it in French. Tu as mis mon nom. I know she's gonna be like, okay, so I can already hear her. But something too I make excuses for is like, well, my mom doesn't really do the most with her hair either. What's normal for us is attachments, extensions. And so when I saw that comment in the video, I was just like, you know what, that makes sense. But I feel like if my mom had taken better care of her hair, maybe it would be thick, maybe it would be full. But then I think about my grandma also doesn't have thick hair. And while I can still make the excuses don't really get us anywhere. Actually, my grandma has she has no edges, and I feel like with all these things that I'm doing here, I need to be very, very careful, because that actually does run in my family. But it is possible that I did take my father's side of hair where it's a little less thin, but genetics does play a role in how our hair turns out. Some of us are going to have children. If you naturally have fine hair, what if we then birth our children who also have fine hair, but we don't think fine hair is enough? Are we then going to tell our children, our girls, that your hair is not enough? You're not beautiful until you have this. You're not beautiful as you look? Is that what we're going to ingrain into our children's heads, minds? Something that was also ingrained in ours. Is that a cycle that we're going to continue to fuel, that we're going to pass down, that we're going to normalize? Starting with these, because we want better for our kids, better than what we had, than what we saw. So I feel like this is an opportunity to reset, right? And so the reset is only going to happen if we really, really believe it for our own selves. Because if I don't believe that my natural hair that is fine is beautiful, how am I going to convince my daughter, my niece, that hers is beautiful? So it starts here and here before we can then share with others. And so what I'm thinking and how I'm shifting my mentality now is that, what if fine natural hair or just fine hair isn't something that needs to be fixed? Let's back it up. What if healthy, fine hair isn't something that needs to be fixed? Maybe it's not everyone else's standard, but what if it's my standard? What if it's our standard if you have fine hair as well? What if we already are exactly where we need to be, and we're just driving ourselves mad by trying to find the next product, the next holy grail? Because that is an insecurity, or that's something that we've been fed to be an insecurity. And maybe it really isn't. Maybe it's not something to be insecure about, but we've been convinced because everything else and everything that looks different has been pushed on us. The big hair, black girl. I mean, I have a whole Pinterest board that's called Black Girl Big Hair. One of the biggest reasons why I started this journey is because I was watching natural hair girlies with big hair, and I'm like, yo, if she can get there, I can get there too. But it's like, even if I don't get there, or if I do get there but it looks a little different, why don't I celebrate my genes the way that I am, as opposed to continue to run myself mad, spend the money that I don't need to spend on hoarding all these products that I don't need to hoard because I'm trying to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed? Let's really think about it. Sometimes I feel like I just complicate life, and we just complicate life, and sometimes it's not all our fault, because also we are products of our environment. So sometimes it also is what our environment feeds us. But we have the power and we have the discernment to say that even though it feeds me something, I don't have to eat it. I don't have to swallow it. I don't have to internalize it. And even in those moments when we do internalize it, we're just human. We can always admit to it, and we can pivot. You know what I mean? We can be like, oh, okay, I see where I went wrong there. How can I make it right? We are human. We are versatile. We are dynamic. If you have gotten so far into the video and you haven't subscribed yet, I think you should subscribe. I think that was proof 2, I think. Yeah. Now the third proof. If those 2 points didn't convince you, here is my third and final attempt. Black hair, Afro textured hair, thin hair, not thin hair is special. As I've been on this journey, I'm realizing how many different forms my hair can take. It's like a chameleon. Chameleon? You know what I'm talking about. It just adapts. It almost reacts as if it is still alive. Just how versatile fine, healthy hair is crazy. This tiny strand of braids, when I took it down, it poofed up into this, like, all these strands into this like afro. And I'm just like, how do we go from a thin strand to a full-on afro in a matter of seconds? Isn't it crazy how thin my hair looks when it's in a braid, but then when I actually take it out, look at how thick it is. This came out of this. Bro, I'm in love. Isn't that crazy? How do we go from being scalpy, from seeing every single part of our scalp, to seeing nothing in a matter of seconds? Isn't that magic? Isn't that special? Depending on the way that you style your thin hair also can give a lot of different looks. It can give volume, or if you're not trying to go for volume, it can give not volume. Do other people's hair do that? I don't know. But it doesn't mean that our hair is better than anyone else's hair. It just means that our hair is special. Our hair is enough, just as it is. You straighten our hair, it gives like movement, weightless, pour water in it, it shrinks up into this afro that gives like identity, and it gives like culture, it gives fullness. It's like, where did your scalp go? You know, it can do this, but it can also do that. It can look like this, but it can also look like that. That is our own unique superpower. And if that doesn't make us magic and special in and of itself, then like, what else do you want from us? Does that make sense? And so that is my third point. And if these 3 points don't convince you, then I don't know, girl. But your fine hair, our fine hair, my thin and fine hair is special. I just have to learn to work with it. I have to learn to embrace it. The hair is not the problem. The mentality is, right? How I look at the hair, how I think of the hair, a lot of times is the problem. So remember that, yes, this is beautiful, but this is also beautiful. Why? Because God was very much intentional about both of them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Subscribing is free. They're not going to charge you. But I also understand you also want to curate what you see. So if you've gotten this far into the video and you don't think this is something that you need to see more of, then I don't know. But if you do think this is something you do need to see more of, then subscribe. Okay, I have to go study now. I have so much to do. Oh my God. Later.